Namaskar, good morning. Welcome to CEC Gurukul Lectures. Today in our discussion, we will be continuing with our discussion from the previous series of archegoniates. Today we are going to study various morphological, anatomical and reproductive aspects of one of a unique bryophyte named as Anthoceros. Amongst bryophytes, there could be three groups which can be distinctly recognized. One is called as liverworts, the other one is called as hornworts, and the third one is called as mosses. Today, we are going to understand various habitat, morphology, anatomical aspects of hornworts by studying a typical genus of hornworts called as Anthoceros. Anthoceros belongs to class Anthocerotopsida, which comprises of a small but clearly defined group of non-vascular plants, popularly known as hornworts. Recently, hornworts have been considered as the oldest extant lineage of land plants and may hold clue to the early diversification of terrestrial plants. Hornworts are structurally complex and evolutionarily interesting as they exhibit similarities with both liverworts and mosses. Members of this group are widely distributed and are characterized by a simple thalloid, irregularly branched gametophyte that harbor several mucilage cavities invaded by colonies of cyanobacteria. The name of that cyanobacteria is nostoc. Because of the presence of nostoc, it imparts green to blue-green color to the gametophyte. Each cell of the thallus contains a single chloroplast with a central pyrenoid, a feature common with alga but not known in other bryophytes. The gametophyte is attached to the substratum with the help of only smooth-walled rhizoids. The two sex organs, that is Antheridia and Archegonia, lie sunken in the thallus. The sporophyte is differentiated into a foot, a basal meristematic region and an upper elongated cylindrical capsule. Unlike all other bryophytes, the sporophyte of Anthoceros continues to grow throughout its life with the help of the basal meristem and hence is long-lived and unique in character. The group has acquired the common name of hornworts because of the horn-shaped sporophytes that emerge from the dorsiventral gametophytes. Hornworts are not related to the family of aquatic angiosperms, that is Ceratophyllaceae, also called as hornworts. The capsule of hornworts dehisces longitudinally and basipately, that is from the tip downwards by the splitting of the apex into two halves. Each half curls back, exposing a central column of spores and pseudo-elaters. The class Anthocerotopsida includes a single order Anthocerotales with several genera, namely Anthoceros, Notothyllus, Megaceros, Phaeoceros and Dendroceros, etc. Anthocerotales in turn has been divided into four families including Anthocerotaceae. As far as the genus Anthoceros is concerned, it was first established by Micheli as early as 1729 and later was adopted by Linnaeus in 1753. As far as the systematic position of Anthoceros is concerned, it belongs to division Bryophyta, class Anthocerotopsida, order Anthocerotales and family Anthocerotaceae. Anthoceros is cosmopolitan in distribution and has approximately 250 species. It is found growing on the moist, clayed soil or wet rocks, usually in dense patches both in the tropics and temperate regions of the world. India, with its varied climatic conditions, provides conducive conditions for the luxurious growth of hornwoods in the lofty mountains of Himalayas, in the northeast and northwest, Vindhyan and Satpura ranges in the central India, and in the Nilgiri and Palni hills in the coastal regions of peninsular India at an altitude ranging from 5,000 to 8,000 feet. Anthoceros has approximately 13 species in India, 5 of which are endemic, such as Anthoceros alpinus, Anthoceros bhardwajai, Anthoceros macrosporus, Anthoceros pandai, and Anthoceros erectus. Eastern and western Himalayas have 6 species each, whereas South India possesses 5 species. Anthoceros manglorius is extensively distributed in hills of South India and extends up to Western Ghats, while Anthoceros khandalensis abounds Khandala region of Deccan Plateau. Anthoceros himalayensis, erectus and chambensis have been reported from Mussoorie, Kullu Manali, Shimla, Nainital, Dalhousie, Kumaon, Chamba Valley and other parts of Punjab. Whereas Anthoceros dexiti and Anthoceros sahyadrensis is found growing in Pune and the neighboring hills, whereas Anthoceros assamicus has been described from Assam and Anthoceros Shivanandani from Kerala. The most common 3 Indian species of Anthoceros are Himalayensis, erectus and chambensis. Here are some of the pictures taken from the naturally occurring Anthoceros. You can see the elongated horn-shaped sporophytes of Anthoceros. These sporophytes, they grow on the thallus, and you can see the origin of these sporophytes. They are from the dorsal surface of the thallus. Each lobe is thick in the center and gradually becomes thin towards the margins. The margins are irregularly lobed and folded. In Anthoceros erectus, the thallus is often raised on a thick stalk-like structure which becomes broader at the apical region. In some other species, plants form large patches of overlapping thalli that are long and pinnately branched. The thallus of Anthoceros has no distinct midrib. The dorsal surface, which is away from the substratum, varies from being smooth to rough. In Anthoceros gemmulosus, dorsal surface bear several marginal subsessile spherical spongy bodies called gemmae, which help in vegetative reproduction. Here in this diagram you can see the ventral surface of Anthoceros, which bears numerous smooth-walled rhizoids. Anthoceros, the Anthoceros rhizoid anchored the prostrate thallus to the substratum. However, unlike liverworts, tuberculate rhizoids and scales are absent from hornworts. On the undersurface of the thallus are seen small, dark, bluish green spots, which are colonies of Cyanobacterium nostoc. Here in the diagram, you can see several colonies of Cyanobacterium, that is nostoc, and they are also represented diagrammatically. So, on the undersurface of the thallus lies certain mucilage cavities. These mucilage cavities, they bear the filaments of blue-green alga nostoc, and because of the presence of these blue-green alga, the thallus at the margins, they appear blue-green in color sometimes. During autumn, the Anthoceros thallus bears long, cylindrical, delicate structures. These are sporophytes which arise from the dorsal surface of the thallus. Each sporophyte has a tubular sheath around its base called as involucre. Some species of Anthoceros are annual while others are perennial. Anatomically, thallus is very simple and lacks tissue differentiation. It is several cells thick in the center and it gradually tapers and becomes thin on the periphery. The upper epidermis or the dorsal surface consists of small irregularly arranged cells with large lens-shaped chloroplasts. The lower or the ventral epidermis shows narrow slits or slime pores that lead to the intercellular cavities located in the thallus. Inside these cavities lies the filaments of blue-green alga nostoc. Two cells that resemble guard cells around the opening which once formed lack the ability to open and close. These activities originate cytogenously and appear first as small intercellular spaces close to the growing point by the partial separation of the cells called mucilage clefts. With the subsequent growth, these cavities expand obliquely upward, forming the superimposed chambers in the middle portion of the thallus, which later become filled with mucilage secreted by the surrounding cells. The filaments of blue-green alga nostoc enter these cavities through the mucilage clefts and form endophytic nostoc colonies. The cells in the middle of the thallus are large, thin-walled and parenchymatous and contain single large flattened chloroplast with a conspicuous central pyrenoid. Here in this diagram you can very well see each cell contains a large pyrenoid body and a chloroplast inside. The number of chloroplasts is just one per cell. Some species of Anthoceros have more than one chloroplast. For example, Anthoceros personae has 2 and Anthoceros helai have 4 chloroplasts in a cell. The occurrence of pyrenoid on chloroplast is a unique and characteristic feature of Anthocerotales. This feature is unknown in Archegoniatae but resembles some green alga. This also indicates the possible evolution of this group from the green alga. Pyrenoid consists of 25 to 300 disc-shaped units, each of which is capable of forming rudimentary starch grain. Pyrenoid morphology is quite variable among the genera of Anthocerotales in shape, fine structure and distribution of inclusions, and thus is taxonomically very informative. Chloroplast shape is also variable from ellipsoidal, dumbbell-shaped to irregular. The transmission electron micrograph of chloroplast reveals that it is enveloped by a double membrane with regions of apparition much like that of other green plants. Internally, it shows several stacks of grana connected by channel of thylakoids. The unique feature of Anthocerotae chloroplast is that channel thylakoids connect adjacent granule stacks at right angles to the long axis of the granum, resulting in a spongy arrangement of the thylakoid system. The stacks of grana of Anthocerotes are like the pseudograna of green alga because they lack the highly curved end membranes typical of all other embryophytes. The channel thylakoids are enriched in photosystem 1 and the grana are enriched in photosystem 2. The resemblance of these stacks of grana mode with green alga also indicates or also gives us an indication, gives the proof that these early land plants, they have derived from green alga. Even the apical cell of the gametophyte contains chloroplast similar to the mature chloroplast of the thallus, but certain gametophytic tissues such as cells around the nostoc colony may contain underdeveloped plastids with small and no pyrenoids. Thylakoids traverse the pyrenoid and separate the disc-shaped structure subunits, giving the appearance of multiple subunits. Chloroplast division is a controlled process and always occurs just before the nuclear division. As far as the Anthoceros and its biotic relationship is concerned, nostoc trichomes are closely packed in the mucilage cavities of Anthoceros thallus. Interestingly, the cells lining the mucilage cavity form multicellular filaments that penetrate the nostoc colony between the trichomes. These bryophytic filaments are highly vacuolated, thin-walled, and are called transfer cells and may sometimes contain intercellular nostoc trichomes. The transfer cells may be interpreted as an adaptation facilitating interchange of metabolites between Anthoceros and nostoc. The structural details of nostoc trichomes reveal the mucilaginous sheaths around the trichomes are much less extensive and heterocytes frequency is as high as 50%. Nostoc forms akinets only in the dormant gametophyte of Anthoceros. The absence of phycobilisomes and high heterocyst frequencies in the nostoc corroborates physiological data that the alga receive organic carbon from the green gametophyte that enable them to fix nitrogen heterotrophically. Further, the in vitro experiments conducted on blue-green alga isolates from Anthoceros to understand the nature of their relationship also reveal the ability of nostoc to fix atmospheric nitrogen and provide it to the hornwort used in the experiments. The cytochemical and ultrastructural observations have indicated that the nostoc endophyte may also in turn benefit from the relationship if the alga are able to catabolize carbohydrate components provided by the gametophytes. The nature of relationship between the alga and hornwort is thus symbiotic. A comparative light and electron microscopic observations on the morphology of the nostoc filaments obtained from these 3 British species of Anthoceros have identified the presence of nostoc sphericum from Anthoceros punctatus, from Anthoceros husnoti and levi, and nostoc calcicola from Anthoceros levis. These findings suggest that the alga bryophyte association is not species specific. Now let us talk about the reproductive aspect of Anthoceros. Reproduction in Anthoceros can take place through vegetative reproduction also. As far as the vegetative reproduction in Anthoceros is concerned, it can take place by the progressive death and decay of the older parts of the thallus, which lead to the separation of lobes, that is fragments, that eventually form 2 plants which lead to independent existence. In this diagram, you can very well see that a thallus in case of Anthoceros gradually starts disintegrating from the posterior end as this disintegration reaches to the bifurcation. The 2 fragmented structures, they become independent, and thus they give rise to two new thalli, and each of these two new thalli, they will further bifurcate or they branch dichotomously and giving rise to the new branches of thalli. The thallus forms several perinating tubers also under favorable conditions such as prolonged drought. They may arise near the tip and or along the margins of the thallus and are either sessile or stalked. These structures are formed by thickening of the marginal tissue and protected by 2 to 3 layers of Corky cells. Some of the cells of the outermost layer also develop into rhizoids that help prevent desiccation during the period of drought. Internally, the tubers show cells filled with the starch grains and oil globules. A single thallus produces several tubers, and each tuber can form a new thallus on arrival of conducive conditions, resulting in vegetative reproduction. Thus, tubers not only act as organs of multiplication, but also of perennation. Some species of Anthoceros also produce several gemmae along the margins or on the dorsal surface of the thallus. Gemmae may be sessile or stalked. Here in this diagram you can see some of the thallus of Anthoceros showing the presence of several gemma. The thallus of Anthoceros may directly arise from various parts of the sporophyte, such as intercalary meristematic, subepidermal and sporogenous regions of the capsule without passing through the spore stage. This phenomenon is called as apospory and leads to shortening of life cycle. So, we are encountering the phenomenon of apospory for the first time amongst the land plants. When the gametophyte has grown to its adult size, it produces the sex organs. Most species of Anthoceros are monoecious with both the sex organs on the same plant, but there are some species which are dioecious, such as Anthoceros erectus or Anthoceros chambensis, which has separate male and female gametophytes. The female organs are known as archegonia and the male organs are known as antheridium. The former are usually protandrous, that is, the antheridia are formed first, and later on in the life cycle of the thallus, the archegonia would be produced. Both kinds of organ develop just below the dorsal surface of the plants along the inconspicuous midrib. However, they later get exposed by disintegration of the overlying cells. As far as the structure of antheridium is concerned, a mature antheridium has a multicellular stalk with 4 rows of cells and a club-shaped, clavate or cylindrical orange colored body. The antheridium consists of an outer single-layered jacket and an inner mass of biflagellated anthrazoids. A ripe antheridia are bright orange in color because of the plastids of the jacket layer developed into orange color chromoplast. Here in the diagram you can see within the antheridial chamber there are multiple antheridia which are grown, and the position of this antheridial chamber is subepidermal. The position of antheridia is unique. The antheridia of Anthoceros are unique in being endogenous and are usually present along the median line in acropetal manner. They occur singly or in groups on the upper surface of the thallus within closed cavities called the antheridial chambers. Each antheridial chamber is roofed over by the thallus tissue, which is 2 cell layers in thickness. When mature, they are somewhat raised from the thallus surface with central opening forming hemispherical elevations on the thallus, and they appear as scooped areas in case of Anthoceros erectus. As far as the antherozoids of Anthoceros is concerned, these liberated antherozoid are tiny, slightly curved biflagellate structure that is broader towards the head and thinner towards the tail. The two flagella are equal and almost of the same length as the body is. In the Anthoceros, the female sex organ is represented by archegonium. A mature archegonium consists of an axial row of cells comprising apical 2 to 4 cover cells, 4 to 6 neck canal cell, and single intermediate ventral canal cell and basal most large egg cell. An archegonium is completely surrounded by the adjacent vegetative cells of the thallus except for the apical most cover cells. Thus, the mature archegonium of Anthoceros is highly reduced structure as in certain pteridophytes and differs remarkably from that of other bryophytes. Generally, it is difficult to locate the archegonium in the thallus from external surface except in the presence of distinct broad mucilage mound. So, as far as the fertilization in case of Anthoceros is concerned, the fertilization also requires some availability of water, or there has to be some mucilage mound which attracts the antherozoid towards the archegonia. So, we will see the fertilization process and how these sporophyte in Anthoceros grows along with other genus and their various aspects of life cycle in our next lecture. Thank you so much.